Good morning, and welcome back. We're going to be making paper pots today. Either for being more environmentally friendly or for saving money, you might want to make your own paper pots. Like these. Now what you need to make paper pots is just something with an indent in the bottom. So I've got a larger pop can here, a beer can, getting smaller, 222 milliliter pop can, a pill bottle with a small indent in the bottom, or even a deep socket from your ratchet set. Let's start using this one, shall we? This can is 10 centimeters high and 2.5 centimeters in radius. So let's take a piece of paper. This is some regular printer paper that I had sitting by, and it's no longer of use for what's printed on it. And I'm going to make just 2 marks. And I'm going to show you 2 different things on this now. 12.5 and 12.5. Take my scissors. Now, if you're going to do this dry, roll it around, turn the bottom side up. This is why I did it the same height as the can. And you just fold the tops in. Press it down hard. And this is what you have on the bottom then. And you slip it out like that. Now, if I were to want to put the bottom nice and flat, I could take a pin like this and just press on the bottom. Now, you see how that piece flares off here? So I don't like that, for having that piece flaring off. And the bottom really doesn't stay very flat. So rather than have it completely flat like that, the better choice is to start with it indented. So that's your dry cup. There's another way to make it an even better cup. Now, because I have a hole in the center here, I've decided to do this one 13 centimeters. Now for this step, you need a smooth water resistant surface. This is fiberglass resin, so this won't, the wet paper won't stick to it, and it's fairly smooth. I have this tray. I'll put some water in it. And just run it through, not thoroughly soaked, but enough to make the paper nice and soft. And doing it that way, it's easier, I found, to roll the can towards me rather than away from me. And you can see the paper is sticking right to the can, so you can pull it nice and tight. And it's much easier to fold down this part now that it's wet. Now I'm going to roll it around in here again to make it good and wet. Now you see, you have to be able to hold on to something up here, and because this is aluminum, the paper is not going to stick to it. And it comes out nicely. You can tap it a little bit to settle down the bottom there. Now I have to be able to see down here a little bit. And now you can't actually pick it up. I just slide it over here to the side. Make sure it's sitting right. And I'll leave it there to dry. You don't need to make them the full height of your can. So this is the other piece now that I cut off that letter size paper to make this one. Just have to make sure you got it in far enough here so that you can fold over the bottom. And have a bottom to your pot. Of course, you can't do this with shiny paper. It's just your basic printed paper. You can make it whatever depth you want, you see. This is one I made yesterday, and it's already dried out. You see the outside edge here? It stays curled in, as opposed to this one where it's sticking off. This one don't have that edge sticking off on this one. Your bottom is perfectly flat, as well as inside. It's a really nicely formed cup. When you get smaller things, you see, you need to overlap somewhat. But I have this, it only overlaps halfway. The start is here, and it goes around, and then halfway again. And it made a good cup. Now we go with this here smaller pill bottle. And let's see, I'm just going to judge it this way this time, how far I want to cut it. Approximately right there. So I'm cutting it crossways this time instead of lengthways. You can experiment with how much you want to soak this initially. It will be different with different weights of paper. So if you have a thinner paper, you would probably want to soak it less. And a thicker paper, soak it more. And going across the paper with this one, I got more than 1.5, but that's okay. I'll fold this down. And since I softened it, see, you don't really need very much of a dip in the bottom of your cylinder to get a good form for your floor of your cup. It would be better to remove the cylinder from your cup in the position where you're going to leave your cup to dry. These 3 little ones was made with this. Now, I did across the sheet, but because it was so small, it has 2.5 layers, and it made for a thicker bottom, which is not quite as smooth as when I cut it shorter, so that I added just 1.5 turns around the socket. Set very nice. Now with this one, I just done a quick soak to soften it and put it on, and when it dried, you can see the piece at the end that turned off a bit. Of course, not much worry about this one because it's such a small cup. But when I re-soaked it, you see the edge, top edge doesn't have one piece sticking off. So this is a much firmer cup. Let's just do a measurement. 4.5 centimeters. I'm going to cut it at 5.5 centimeters. Now, as I said, this strip was too long, so I'm going to cut about 1/3 of it off. And I have this. Then just turn it into the hole of the socket. Put your socket down on the table. Pull it out. And don't forget to tap down your floor inside to make it nice and flat. Leave it to dry. Let's fill these up and see how they fill. I've replaced my water container with a container of pre-moistened potting soil here. That one worked just fine. The reason you would want a bigger cup like this, some things sets down quite a taproot and they need to be planted in a tall starter cup, trees being one of those things. This cup I made with this container, it is a little bigger around, and so I don't have a full 1.5 turns of the paper on top here. Let's see how it works. Seeming to work fine. This one will be okay. I made with this container. Now when you come down to little things like this, do you want to fill them up little bits at a time, or maybe take a piece of a pipe, you go in your pile, quickly fill that full. Then top it up, you've got it full. So these are, I'm just going to measure them for you because two centimeters, which is the same size as the cells in the 200 cell flat. You can take a bunch of these and your regular 1x2 tray, line them off, and you've got 200 little cells, paper pot cells. I'm going to try that with the onions this year, so you'll get to see just how well these work in that kind of a situation. It's a couple of days later now. I have the tall and short cup here on the wicking mat with a couple of lettuce plants in them. And here's some of the little ones that I'm filling out to put onions in a couple of weeks. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, if you want to follow along, it'd be a good idea to subscribe and hit that bell. See you in the next one.